There were nights when I just wanted to disappear, not because I wanted to die, but because I couldn't find a reason to keep living. I still woke up every morning. I still worked, still smiled, still had dinner with my family. But inside, I was falling apart, piece by piece. If you're a man who has cried in silence, who once thought about ending it all, but chose to keep going for someone you love, then this video is for you. I didn't grow up in hardship. My family wasn't rich, but we never lacked anything. My parents worked hard to provide for their children. I had toys, new clothes for Christmas and New Year, and warm family meals. I wasn't pushed to get top grades. No one placed heavy expectations on me. Everything felt enough. And that sense of enough made me think, maybe life doesn't need to be more than this. I didn't try hard. I didn't see why I needed to. I got used to living in my comfort zone, drifting through days with no dreams bigger than the next weekend. Looking back, I realize that false sense of okay was the most dangerous thing. It lulled me into mediocrity while I quietly fell behind. At 19, I thought I was clever. I didn't go to college, but I knew how to design websites. I could talk to clients. So I started a company, alone, no mentor, no accountant, no lawyer, just confidence and a hunger to get rich quick. It started off well. I had clients, income, progress. I thought I was on the verge of success. I was young and already running my own business. Who wouldn't admire that? But then everything began to fall apart. I couldn't manage money, couldn't control project deadlines, couldn't build a team. When clients started complaining and work slowed down, I panicked. I reacted too slowly. The company collapsed and I was left in confusion. I didn't just lose money. I lost my faith in myself. Failing that young, it eats away at you. It made me avoid people. I couldn't face the time I had wasted. I began to believe I didn't deserve success at all. After starting a family, life shifted. Responsibility wasn't a choice anymore. It became destiny, a wife, a child. I no longer lived just for myself. I felt the need to do something big. I had to prove to my wife, my child, and to myself that I wasn't a failure, that I was a man who could provide. So I jumped into financial markets. I had no real knowledge, and I didn't take the time to learn. I skimmed a few short articles, watched YouTube videos, joined investment groups full of hype and herd mentality. But I believed because I wanted to believe. I used our savings. Some of that money was for our child's future education. I even borrowed more, not much, but enough to make sure that if I lost, I had no way back. And I did lose. Fast. Brutally. Before I could understand what had happened, everything was gone. I didn't tell my wife right away. I hid it. I thought I could recover it. But the more I tried, the deeper I fell. Every morning I woke up with a crushing weight on my chest. I avoided her eyes. I avoided my child. I started losing sleep. I lay awake in the dark, hearing the fan spin and my own heart pounding in fear. I heard my wife sigh at midnight. I saw my child still laughing, still hugging me goodnight, and that made me hate myself even more. I was a bad father, a failed husband, a man who thought he was brave, but really knew nothing beyond self-deception. I once sat alone in the bathroom past midnight, thinking about disappearing, not because I wanted to die, but because I didn't feel worthy of being near people so good. I imagined my child growing up without a father. I imagined my wife explaining why I was gone. And the most terrifying part, a small voice inside me said, maybe I deserved it. That was my rock bottom. In a quiet house, while everyone slept, I wanted to vanish, but I didn't die. I didn't leave, not because I was strong, but because something fragile held me back. Maybe it was the image of my sleeping child. Maybe it was the tiny hand that once held mine in the park. Maybe it was my wife's words. You can fail 1,000 times, just don't give up. I kept living, but I was no longer the same man. After all the failures, I began to hate the person I had become. I didn't want to go outside, didn't want to talk. I felt like a burden, a useless man surviving on the pity of his wife and kids. There was no joy, no passion. Even food lost meaning. I woke up each morning not to live, but just to continue. Each night, as my family slept, I lay there, eyes wide open, breathing steady, heart heavy. I asked myself, does anyone really need me? If I vanished tomorrow, would they grieve? Or just feel relief? I used to have dreams, big ones. I used to believe I'd do something meaningful. But now, I was just a hollow shell, drained of confidence, drained of purpose. I hated the way I sighed around my child. I hated the swollen eyes my wife saw each morning. I hated the fake laughter I forced out at dinner, pretending everything was fine. I wasn't myself anymore, just a stranger living in my body, a lazy, defeated, useless stranger, and worst of all, a stranger who no longer knew why he was alive. I once swore I'd never be like my father, angry, distant, hard to talk to, a man who made love feel conditional. But then, I became him, not with fists, not with shouting, but with cold silence, with short, dry answers, with a tired voice sharp enough to slice a child's heart. I brought all my burdens home, failure, fear, fatigue. I dragged them through the door like muddy shoes and stomped them straight into my children's hearts. I didn't hurt them with violence. I hurt them with emotional absence, with invisible walls, with the kind of distance that makes a child wonder, is it because I was bad that Dad's like this? I saw their eyes dim when I snapped. I heard the trembling in their voice when they said, "It's okay, Dad." And every time, something cracked inside me. The worst part, I knew exactly what I was doing because I had lived it. I had felt it, and I had sworn I'd never repeat it. But there I was, becoming the very scar I spent my life trying to forget. And nothing haunts me more than that. One day, my daughter came close and quietly asked, "Dad, are you tired?" That question, soft as a breeze, swept away all my defenses. It woke me from a long, numb sleep, not because I wanted to succeed, not to prove anything, but because I didn't want to hurt her again. I no longer wanted to be a successful man. I just wanted to be a kind father, and that required a total transformation. I didn't change because I was brave. I changed because I was scared. I was scared that one day my child would remember me as tired, distant, cold. I was scared that if I died, every burden would fall on the small shoulders of the woman I loved most. And that fear, it was stronger than my laziness, stronger than my sadness, stronger than the darkness that had swallowed me for so long. There was no big epiphany, no movie-style breakthrough, just a quiet, stubborn decision. Be better, even just a little, even if I failed again. So I started with the smallest things. I quit smoking because I wanted to live longer, to see my child succeed beyond me. I started walking every morning, not for fitness, but to avoid being a burden. I learned to sit in silence without sinking, to breathe before reacting. I practiced meditation and gentle stretching, not to become impressive, but to be fully present in every moment with my child. Things still weren't perfect. I still had dark days. I still stumbled. But slowly, the distance between me and my children began to shrink. The walls started to fall, not with a bang, but brick by brick. And in their eyes, I began to see something I thought I had lost forever: hope. I no longer dream like I did in my 20s. I no longer expect to change my life overnight. But one thing still burns inside me: a quiet flame, small but steady. I began telling my story through YouTube, not for views, not for content, but as a signal to men out there silently hurting the way I once did. I don't hide my pain. I don't run from failure. I share it to prove one thing: we can fall, but we don't have to stay down. Broken bones, lost paths, dreams turned to ashes, and still, we can begin again. I don't know how many people will watch my videos. I don't expect to be called inspiring. I just hope that someone, in a moment of exhaustion, might stumble upon my voice and find their own little flame again. A small flame, but enough to keep going. Because I believe, as long as that flame stays lit, we still matter.